This is devotional number 210, and this week we are looking at two verses, 1 Corinthians 2:13 and Nehemiah 8:8. Actually, we're just focusing in on Nehemiah 8:8, which says, "So they read in the book in the law of God distinctly and gave the sense and caused them to understand the reading." And we've been focusing on this word distinctly, which is Strong's number in the Hebrew 6567. And it's found in four other places besides here in Nehemiah 8:8. And we've looked at a few of those already: Proverbs 23:32, Ezekiel 34:12, Numbers 15:34, and Leviticus 24:12. And what I'd like to do today is go a little deeper into Proverbs 23:32, and I'll read verses 20 to 21 and 27 to 35 so that we see the overall context in which verse 32 is found. "Be not among wine bibbers, among riotous eaters of flesh. For the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty, and drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags." Verse 27, "For a whore is a deep ditch, and a strange woman is a narrow pit. She also lieth in wait as for a prey, and increaseth the transgressors among men. Who hath woe, who hath sorrow, who hath contentions, who hath babbling, who hath wounds without cause, who hath redness of eyes, they that tarry long at the wine." And wine is Strong's number 3196. "They that go to seek mixed wine. Look not thou upon the wine when it is red, when it giveth his color in the cup, when it moveth itself aright. At the last it biteth like a serpent, and stingeth like an adder." And this is our word distinctly, 6567, which is translated here, "and stingeth." "Thine eyes shall behold strange women, and thine heart shall utter perverse things. Yea, thou shalt be as he that lieth down in the midst of the sea, or as he that lieth upon the top of a mast. They have stricken me, thou shalt thou say, and I was not sick. They have beaten me, and I felt it not. When shall I awake? I will seek it yet again." There are a couple of important themes that we find in this chapter, amongst many, which relate to "and stingeth." Again, Strong's number 6567. One, of course, is wine, which can be understood parabolically, as I've mentioned before, to refer to the wine of false gospels, even though wine can also, in a positive sense, refer to the blood of Christ or to the true gospel of the Bible. For example, if we turn to Deuteronomy 32:33 to 34, we encounter the same word wine, again, which is in Hebrew, Strong's number 3196, in verse 33. Just like we found in Proverbs 23:30 to 31, where it's rendered "at the wine" and "not thou upon the wine." This is Deuteronomy 32:33 and 34. Well, let me double check that. I might have the wrong. Let me just look that up real quickly. Deuteronomy 32. Yeah, it's actually Deuteronomy 32, 32, and 33 that I'm going to read. For their vine is of the vine of Sodom, and of the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall, their clusters are bitter. Their wine is as the poison of dragons, and the cruel venom of asps. And so notice the similarity between Proverbs 23:32 and Deuteronomy 32:34 with respect to serpents and adders on the one hand, and with dragons, which is a word that can also be translated as serpents, and asps on the other hand. So we see that God is also associating the word "it biteth," which is Strong's number 5391, with our word "and stingeth," which is 6567 in Proverbs 23:32. And this is taking place at the last, which is, let's see, hold on just a second. I lost my place. All right, I can't seem to find that right now, but the word "last," I think we have to back up a bit, is a word that is more commonly translated as "the end" or "the latter." I think this is, if we go back to verse 29 of Deuteronomy 32:29, it says, "Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end." I believe that's this word, Strong's number 319, which is commonly translated as "the end" or the last. Okay, I need to double check that though. Yeah, forgive me. I can't find where I have that reference at. Anyway, let's move on. As we look at this idea of the wine of a false gospel, it really has to do specifically with the time of the Great Tribulation. And it was at this time, for example, in Matthew 24, it talks about, in 3 verses, it talks about the idea that false prophets would arise. And because of that, we know that deception is really at the forefront of the Great Tribulation period. This is what made the Great Tribulation period such a terrible time from one standpoint, is the degree of deception that was prevalent all over the earth. Okay, I think I found it. What I was looking for, Proverbs 23:32, it says, "At the last." This is the what I couldn't get to. I couldn't find. This is the word "the end" or "the latter." So please disregard what I said about verse 29 as far as the latter end. That might be the same word, but I have no way of checking that right now. But definitely in Proverbs 23:32, "at the last," is this word 319, which is more commonly translated as "the end" or "the latter." And so we see during the Great Tribulation there was this tremendous deception all over the world. Wonderfully, at the same time, we saw, beginning in 1994, the latter rain. So for those last 17 years, this was counterbalanced by this unique, in the history of the world, exposure that the gospel had and penetration that the gospel had all over the world as God set about saving the last of his elect prior to May 21, 2011. And now the other dominant theme is this idea here in Proverbs 23, in this chapter, is the idea of wine related to a strange woman or whore that we find here, which typifies the kingdom of Satan and the institutional churches and denominations that really were Satan's seat. He took his seat there, as we read about in 2 Thessalonians 2, 3-4, as Isaiah 14, 3-4 predicted. And this took place on May 21, 1988, and lasted the 23 years of the Great Tribulation, finally ending on the beginning of the Day of Judgment on May 21, 2011, and that is when Satan was defeated. Now, we're going to have to stop here today. Lord willing, we'll look at the fourth verse that has this word, 65, 67, in Ezekiel 34:12, Lord willing, in our next study.